Hello again everyone, and welcome to another Vanna's collaboration video. This month I've stretched the theme a little bit to extend to my favourite historical places that we've visited either in the motorhome or camping or travelling under some other form of accommodation, but usually in the motorhome. Now don't forget to watch the whole playlist and check out what the other channels involved chose as their favourite places. Now before we dive in, I'll just say that I have chosen some abandoned mines as some of my favourite historical places, and of course a lot of the surface stuff was built out of materials, be it stone or metals extracted from the mines in the first place, so I think they definitely fit the bill. But I'm not giving precise locations as normal of these. These are places that shouldn't really be visited by the casual visitor. I'm an experienced and insured explorer of these places, so yeah, if you do want to visit them, then you're better off contacting a mine history society or a caving club, who should be able to help you out and organise a visit. Now every location shown in this video does have a longer video associated with that location on my channel, and as well as the playlist links, I'll put links to those videos in the description should you wish to check them out. Right, let's jump in to my selection of favourite historical places. Well, in 2019 I attended the National Association of Mine History Organisations conference in mid Wales, and we explored some marvellous metal mines in the area, although some of them were a little bit wet to enter. And there's a little bit of scope for adventure in some of these mines. This is a rope traverse high above an open stope deep in the workings. Yeah, it's a little bit of care needed to cross here. Now the mine we're in here suffered a collapse near the entrance whilst it was still working in the 1800s, and it was never considered worth digging back out again until more modern times, when mine explorers have found their way back in by digging through the collapse. But this time spent undisturbed has preserved some artefacts in the mine, and the mine is very infrequently visited. It's quite remote. And have a look at this fantastic wheelbarrow, just as it was left by the last miners that worked here some 300 years ago. There is a bit of clambering to do to get to it though. We're in a different mine now, but not too far away, and in this mine is this fantastically well preserved underground water wheel, and this would have been used to exploit the power of the water falling in the mine to actually pump water out of the mine, which is quite ingenious really, isn't it? And here you can see the remains of the rising main coming up from the flooded workings that the water wheel would have pumped in years gone by. Look how fantastically clear the water is. It's hundreds of years since anybody last went down there. And underground in the same area we find this old iron kibble, and this would have been used in a shaft to raise the ore to the surface. So just a big bucket really, but yeah, quite a nice artefact to see in the mine. Now this is not very far from home. This is at the head of the old and new Bedford rivers in Cambridgeshire, and it's an Alan Williams machine gun turret. There weren't many of these made, and there's even less now still surviving. This one was placed at the head of the old and new Bedford rivers to protect the sluices from air attack, and yeah, let's have a quick look at it. So there you go, there's the real Alan Williams turret. You see it's quite a lot bigger, and it's got the hole in the top. I think it's missing a cover there, and also missing a front cover here. It's also got this little access trench where you can get down into it. Let's have a look. Well, sadly, as you can see, there's quite a bit of rubbish in here. Great shame, but see the wheels where the turret could be rotated. It's all rusted up at the bottom now, so won't rotate anymore. You can also see here the bracket for the machine gun, which you would have fired out of this opening here. And there's a number of these little fold down foot plates that you could stand on to get a better stance for firing your machine gun. So there you go, there is a proper Alan Williams turret. Anyway, certainly a interesting little wartime surviving relic. Deep underneath the Surrey countryside are ancient stone mines that date back to pre-Elizabethan times. A few years back I was helping out with a little project to record some ritual protection marks down there. Today I'm in an underground stone quarry in the southeast, helping with a project to record ritual protection marks. This quarry was worked for building stone, and parts of it have been dated back to Tudor times, so the 1500s to 1600s. And there are known uses of the stone in medieval and even Roman times, so parts might be older. The marks we're looking for are mainly the interconnected V's, or perhaps a single V type mark. They were made by quarry workers to protect their working areas from evil such as witchcraft in the late Tudor period. The intertwined V's are said to perhaps stand for Virgo Virginium, Virgin of Virgins. It's easy to see how a superstitious person working in one of these galleries by candlelight might be fearful of the dark passages around him and what might be lurking within them. Now, a castle I have visited recently is the Carreg Castle, just outside the Brecon Beacons. And what a fantastic place it is. Apart from the castle ruins and the fantastic view from them, there's also a sort of secret passage that leads to the castle's own little cave, which you can explore as well. So yeah, highly recommend a visit to Carreg Castle. My next choice is an ochre mine, which I visited whilst we were staying in the motorhome in a little CL on the Bendip Hills, and yeah, let's take a quick look at that. Ooh, well, we've found the mine, and isn't it nice to be in the dry out of that rain, eh? So yeah, this is ochre mine, and ochre was used for all sorts of different things actually. Primarily, I think, as a colour for making red paints, dyeing cloth, that sort of thing. And it would have been laid down as like a shallow pond, maybe fed by a hot spring. All the iron deposits sort of settled out here, so this would have been like a boggy lake bed at one time, and that's what's left all this lovely red ochre, and it does stain everything very red. Now, of course, we couldn't have historical mine sites without mentioning the mines around Matlock, and yeah, I've stayed in CLs in and around the Matlock area, especially the Splash Farm CL, really like that one, and have explored from there several of the mines in the Matlock Bath area, and of course they're mainly lead and later on fluorspar mines, but yeah, great fun to be had around that area. What do you think of it so far then?
Fantastic.
Now this one is a firm favourite of mine. This is a little iron mine in South Wales, and I was very privileged to visit this one with a local chap who knows it well. It's not an often visited site, and it is a little bit unstable. It's not the most safe of places, but nevertheless it is well worth viewing. And yeah, take a look at this. The mine was opened in the late 1700s. There's the remains of an old tipping wagon here. After the mine had finished working, a reservoir was built above it, which opened in 1914. The reservoir leaked quite badly into the mine, so they lined the inside of the mine with this concrete to try and hold it back a little bit. Parts have also been brick lined. This is a sort of chimney which extends an air shaft of the mine above the former level of the reservoir. A bit of a collapse here to crawl over. You can start to see now that the roof of the mine is quite badly delaminating, and slabs of stone are peeling off and falling down onto the floor of the mine. Of course, this has happened over a very long period of time, so the odds are in your favour for them not to fall while you're underneath, but even so, best not to linger in the more fragile areas. Now, of course, there are obvious hazards with exploring old mine workings, so as usual, we'd say don't enter unless you're experienced or with someone experienced in exploring these type of areas. Old iron mine workings can sometimes have low oxygen levels in them due to the oxidisation of the iron in the stone using up the oxygen in the air, so it's always best to be absolutely sure that where you're exploring is safe. This mine is reasonably free of those sorts of problems because it has good ventilation due to the air shaft. What a fantastic place though. It's a bit of a privilege to be able to come down here and see how people worked 200 or 300 years ago. A variety of different materials have been used as temporary support here, from the usual sort of iron hoops to timbers and old girders and bits of old railway line. This passage here descends to link in down to another mine at a lower level, which is unfortunately now flooded. I can imagine coming down here with a flask of tea and a book and just spending some time down here in the peace and quiet away from it all. Wouldn't that be lovely, eh? So there you go. I hope you enjoyed my selection of historical places. Don't forget to view the other videos in the playlist, and we'll see you again in a future video very shortly.